people there.
I used to say.
Good morning. This reading is 417 from Singing the Living Tradition, The Beauty of the Earth by Barbara J. Peskin. The spinning blue ball, yes, Gaia, mother of everything, we walk gently across your back to come together in this place to remember how we can live, to remember who we are, to create how we will be, Gaia, our home, the lap in which we live, welcome us. As is our custom, if you'd like to come and light a candle for joy, for a concern, or just to bring more light into the world, please do so while we sit in stillness, listening to the prelude.
Land to till and plow, with a pendant deep as midnight north, we ask you, be here now. Mother Air, your inspiration holds together all that lives, as we breathe and night see clearly, leading us to love and give, raging whirlwind, whispered breezes, silent gale and gentle cloud, with the blade as sharp as morning east, we ask you, be here now. Brother fire, great transformer, share the passion of the sun. Yours the power that made us you, yours the gift Promethean. Flame of life, the blood of earth, you glow within the ancient forge. With the wand directing power south, we ask you, be here now. Sister water, sister flowing, ocean, river, pond, and rain, drink we now and quench our thirsting, cleanse us, we begin again. Mist and ice, a host of changes, all that courage will allow. With the cup, the holy chalice, blessed, we ask you, be here now. Be here now.
This is written by Reverend Yolanda Norton from her Beyonce Mass. Our Mother, who is in heaven and within us, we call upon your many names. Your wisdom come, your will be done in all the spaces in which you dwell. Give us each day sustenance and perseverance. Remind us of our limits as we give grace to the limits of others. Separate us from the temptation of empire, but deliver us into community. For you are the dwelling place within us, the empowerment around us, and the celebration among us, now and forever. Amen. Please stand and body your spirit as you're able. For our spoken affirmation, join me as together we remind ourselves of the affirmation that is a cornerstone of our free faith tradition. The words, should you need them, are in the morning program. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and freedom, and to help one another. You may be seated.
This is what I'm supposed to talk about, and I had just been making all kinds of other notes on here. And you'll understand why. So I joined Red River in 2016. At that time, the budget was around $42,000. And of that, over $5,000 went toward principal and interest for paying off the building. The building's now paid off. Last year, we had a budget of around $48,000, and we were through 24 pledges, we got around $44,000 of that. The rest was covered through Share the Bowl and other minor sources of income. This year, for the first time ever, our budget has now exceeded $50,000, and it's close to $52,000. Two big hits that we've seen in the last 2 years are utilities and building insurance, and those have gone up quite a bit, 50% or more each. So because of that, our goal this year for our stewardship campaign is around $46,000. To date, and I just checked this morning, through 13 pledges, we have commitments of $26,000. And we have 1 week left, so I know a lot of you like to wait till the last minute. Please stop, because you're causing me a lot of anxiety, as well as the Board of Trustees and the other members on the finance team. And we're going, oh, what are we going to do? So if you're wondering what happens if we don't make the pledge commitment, the target that we've set, our bylaws require us to have a balanced budget that would be approved in the spring congregational meeting. So we either have to find more money somewhere, or we have to cut expenses. And considering where we're short right now, that's a lot of expenses to cut. Here's the breakdown of that 52,000 budget. 41% of that is facilities, and of that, 60% is utilities and building expenses. And that's not any fat in there that we can really trim. 29% is for the worship team, and that's almost all speakers and honoraria. I don't think we want to be trimming or cutting there. If we look at communications, administrative, and outreach programs, that's around 19%. And if we cut there, we're cutting our visibility to the community, and that's not good, because that's a self-defeating purpose. And then finally, we wrap up with religious education and membership, which is 5%. That's our 100% budget right there. So think about what you can do. If you haven't pledged, please pledge. Like I said, last year we had 24 pledge units. This year we have, so far to date, 13. So I'm getting really anxious for you people that are waiting for the last minute. Please stop it. And we'll see how it ends up at the spring congregational meeting. Hopefully we'll have good news.
Well, here we are. Once more, this church has hosted the Grayson County Earth Day Festival. Once again, the people who always do the most will have done far more than even their usual. Once again, our heads and hearts are filled with reusing, repurposing, recycling, upcycling, saving water, saving bees, saving butterflies, making our homes, our gardens, our common spaces as sustainable and beautiful as possible. The longer days, the warmer weather, the burgeoning plant life, all call to us if only we could do more. In pagan rituals, we start off with a goal, whether it be just worship, finding balance with the seasons, or striving for something more tangible like healing. We gather and connect with one another and with the energies around us. Then we chant or meditate, going deep within ourselves to find our innermost needs and strengths. We focus our shared energy on our goal, then celebrate our togetherness with food and drink. Earth Day has us doing it backwards. We do the work first, and then gather to meditate and focus inward for this brief time. Now let's take the time to figure out how we can do more. Or maybe we should be doing less. Earth Day is over. Now what? As much as I have enjoyed us singing together the last few weeks, this week's solo performances are performed so beautifully that I think we should just listen and enjoy. The first one, Lady of the Season's Laughter, is our next song.
Lady of the season's laughter, in the summer's warmth be near. When the winter follows after, teach our spirits not to fear. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning year. Sister of the evening starlight, in the falling shadows stay, here among us till the far light of tomorrow's dawning ray. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning day. Mother of the generations, in whose love all life is worth, everlasting celebrations bring our labors safe to birth. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning earth. Goddess of all time's progression, stand with us when we engage, hands and hearts to end oppression, writing history's fairer page. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning age.
The readings this morning are long, but the discourse will be short, so it'll all work out. T. Thorne Coyle, a witch writer, teacher, and activist, wrote, "Several months ago, a student wrote to me, I'm ready now to commit to sitting at the altar daily, but it still bothers me that in times of stress and challenge, I scale my practice back just when I need to be doing more." I responded, "Good for you for recommitting. Scaling back when we need more is pretty common. It is good to notice that tendency and to ask ourselves, what is one thing I can do to feed my practice so that it can support me? That way, rather than giving up completely, we may say, I will sit at my altar for 3 minutes. After that, I can go about my day. This eases up on the struggle to do it all or nothing, which so many of us end up with. How many facets of our lives succumb to the all or nothing fallacy. There's a phrase from the overculture, go big or go home. I get that this is supposed to be inspirational, and perhaps it is to some of you. But for many of us, this sort of thinking infects us with a pernicious belief that on days when we feel tired or overwhelmed, we just aren't good enough. Something is lacking in us. We can't go big, and so we give up entirely. Or we may feel the problems of this world are too large for me to handle. I don't know how to solve the problems of racial or economic injustice. I can't reverse climate change. I don't know what to do about foreign policy. I can't solve the killings of children and the torture of adults. We may not be able to solve these things single-handedly, but we can all contribute to the solutions if we choose to. We may not be able to change our own lives or the lives of family and community for the better in big ways, but we can contribute to these changes. We can show up at our altars, sit in stillness and silence, get some exercise, make that phone call, send an email, commit to showing up at the planning meetings, have hard conversations, let our city council know what we think. We can put a small crack in the facade of toxic normalcy. Here's a story about just this sort of thing. Yesterday was a cascade of small interactions. I had errands to run downtown. One stop was to a small local bank. As I spoke to the banker, I noticed the windows behind his desk were gone, replaced with plywood. It was obvious they'd been broken in recent protests. Rather by agents, provocateurs, or distressed protesters is less clear. We didn't say anything about it. But as I rose to leave, he quietly said, I like your button. My button with the picture of Alan in his white tux and the words, no justice, no peace. I touched Alan's face with my fingers and replied, he was killed 2 years ago by the Oakland police. He was 18 years old. What was his name? Alan Bluford. Then it was on to a pay-as-you-go phone, to get a pay-as-you-go phone to use as a business line. The first shop couldn't use the old phone I had, so I went to another, also with boarded-up windows. As I waited, a clerk and some customers began complaining about the protesters. I don't know what they think they're accomplishing with all this destruction. They're just causing all these disruptions. And the clerk escalated the conversation in ways that were less than polite. I approached them. The other clerk, who'd put my name on a waiting list, said, Thorne, you're up next. I replied that I would be leaving because I didn't want to give money to a shop where the clerks were denigrating protesters, that I supported protesters. Her jaw actually dropped. Walking out, I returned to the first shop where they were surprised to see me, and I told them why I came back. The clerk and I had a long and fruitful conversation as he helped me. He admitted that, despite being Black, he hadn't been too aware before, but the recent events had woken him up, and he is a child now, whose future he has to think of. I told him that his company sponsors militarized police training, and what can we do about it? Why do I relate this story? Because these were just ordinary interactions with other human beings. There was no go big or go home in any of them. In the course of running necessary errands, I spoke to the people around me about what felt important. We all too often think that we shouldn't speak about what feels important unless we're on a soapbox or standing in the middle of a crowd. We are loath to disrupt the status quo. We're taught not to. The thing you may not know about me is that I am an introvert who would rather spare my energy from common social interactions. My childhood trained me toward codependency and conflict avoidance. So speaking uncomfortable truths does require effort on my part, but it is one small thing I can do. This essay started with spiritual practice and segued into justice. The point here is that the status quo, whether in our internal states, in small communities, or a larger public sphere, can often use disruption. Sometimes disruption comes through solidarity with others and looks big, but it doesn't have to be. Disruption can be as simple as recentering so that we are stronger and clearer about our work. Disruption can be as simple as taking a breath and saying, I disagree, and here's why. Disruption can be us saying, through actions and through words, I am here. How can I help? What within or around you needs disruption right now? What needs recommitment? Whether it is a personal spiritual practice, community building, or justice of all kinds, we can stop thinking, go big or go home, and start thinking, what is one thing I can do today? Okay, I can't help but laugh because the program part that follows that reading is called Practices. What shall we talk about here? So Earth Day is over. Now what? What kept coming to mind was, don't just do something, stand there. I remembered it from Alice in Wonderland and seemed to remember it was a business management flash in the pan, a la the 1 Minute Manager. So I Googled it and I found an article about mindfulness. The article suggested beginning with 5 minutes of silent meditation. Doug seemed to think some of us would find that difficult. So today we shall begin with 1 minute of silent focusing on our breathing.
This second reading is by Susie Banks Bong, wrote in January 2016 when all of us, depending on which side of the fence you were on, were still reeling after the election of Trump. Her words are no less true today. To approach the topic of hope, of being a power of good, for lighting a way out of this new dark, we have to begin somewhere. This is the 6th draft of this post, the previous 5, which were begun in anger. My anger is fierce, strong, and unrelenting. Every day a savory news item adds to my fire, but less readable than my anger was the part where I wrote about being a stand for love no matter what, and I stand for beauty no matter what. Those I wrote are my superpowers. But with every revision, I realized I sound preachy and right, like I have all the answers. Believe me, I do not have all the answers, especially when news sources fling darkness and challenge. Stories from Congress or Standing Rock or the Congo or the Arctic sink me deeper in despair. Then I remembered something I wrote in my dark journal this week. The holy dwells in dark places. What can that mean for you, living with your life in your own town? For me, it means allowing my spiritual solitude, my willingness into the dark. That is where right action gestates. I often work in a dark journal, especially in winter. I sit with dark feelings and questions. Sometimes I rise from those pages with inspiration. Usually, in time, my dark journal lets my senses adjust to the lack of light. My words tune to this other song that gets louder by the day. What I aim to illustrate is how a daily creative practice works for me, anchors me while the tide of despair rushes in again. Will my creative practice fill the empty bellies in the Congo? Will it repair lives in Aleppo? Will it assure all citizens health care or build gender equality? Will my daily writing erase some of the pain in the world? Could my creative practice stem the melt of the Arctic ice? No, but it will allow me to make sense of my place in the world and in relation to all the other needs I witness. My practice allows me a thread to hold on to. Resilient no matter what, I connect to spirit. I remember that love is the most powerful force in the world. That's true, and I become ready to take what action is mine. I recognize my deep longing and I answer it with small steps to engage action. The practice of expressive writing can move us forward by helping us gain new insights on the challenges in our lives. It involves free writing continuously for 20 minutes about an issue, exploring your deepest thoughts and feelings around it. The goal is to get something down on paper, not to create a memoir like a masterpiece. And this was by Kara M. Newman. And this really spoke to me because I try to come from that place of love. And so when I read those things, it just burns in me. Today, on an ordinary day, with the sidewalks light of a winter afternoon, slanting in the window, I write. Then what? I gather. Since the November election, I have gathered with different groups of people to talk about what change we can seed, what hope we can possibly foster, even when effectiveness slithers from our fingers. In each gathering, the overtone of sorrow thrums as we hold on to the questions that made us gather in the first place. How can we seed hope in 2017? So many people want to take positive action to help where people or help is needed. We want to express from this newly inhabited desire that is sister to legacies of hopelessness in so many communities. Just let me do something. For those of us who want to see democracy survive and thrive, we are legion. The heart is where everything begins. That grounded place in each of us where we can overcome fear, rediscover that we are members of one another. and embracing the conflicts that threaten democracy as openings to new life for us and for our nation. And this is from the Prelude and Parker J. Palmer's Healing the Heart of Democracy. In mid-December, I gathered in New York City with Starhawk and Bright Flame, two leaders in the reclaiming movement, along with 50 people at the West Beth Community Center in Lower Manhattan. The desire among the group was to make a ritual that matters together, but more potent were our mutual desires as change makers to fuel ourselves for the daunting work ahead. The women held a space for a group-led ritual that took about 5 hours to craft. Fresh from Standing Rock, Starhawk spoke about the ritual deepening our sense of value no matter where we are. Starhawk is a sequoia in the forest of strange agents alive today. I left the ritual buoyed, but not by some new medicine to apply to a growing set of symptoms, rooted in my purpose through the experience of creating a ritual with a group of complete strangers in a community room that sits on a street just 50 paces from the Hudson River. I knew what is mine to do. I wake with this purpose daily, and I will not back down. I stand for women's voices and the voices of young people coming up in the world. I will continue to teach, speak, write, and engage in a daily creative practice, for it is the strongest tool I know for nurturing positive change. If I do not know something of my inner world about the issues I care about, I will always and ever be overwhelmed by the needs of the world. With my daily practice, my heart sows roots and I become more grounded. If we do some form of creative practice daily, something done in solitude, prayerfully and diligently, our inner truth surfaces, and each of us, me included, will know the next right action to take. This way we will become clear. So while my personal politics require me to deal with bouts of anger and sadness, I will no longer despair. In the future, this very immediate future, my children, yours too, and our LGBTQ family, our disabled family, our elders, our family and friends from other nations, and the indigenous people of the United States will be impacted by changes in our national leadership. What is required of me is to be clear of conscience, to be true in my motives, to do the work I am called to do, and to invite collaborative conversation whenever I can to make ritual in my life, in my daily life. Little bursts of awe make you humble and really engaged in other people, said Dasher Keltner of Greater Good. What I almost always come to in my daily practice is some small moment of awe. Maybe it is a phrase I turn to in a book opened randomly, or the sight of a hawk tracing a line between the pine and the oak outside my window, or the way a simple collage illustrates a thought. I set something of the natural world on my desk. I light a candle and read, allowing this simple ritual to stand as the opening bell, ringing and is what is new, next, and important. A daily creative practice builds resilience and connection and opens our eyes to awe and wonder. We cannot not see the beauty of the world, even when the worry dogs us like a high fever. We find power where confusion or frustrations have previously reigned. Even in dark places, awe surfaces when we pay attention and power takes root there.
I know I tend to talk fast, so if I get to talking too fast, wave at me so I'll know to slow down, okay? Well, I said the readings would be long, but the discourse would be short. And that's because we're not going to have one. We're going to do something else. How many of you think a daily spiritual practice would help? How many of us do a daily spiritual practice? Well, you've gotten some ideas here to strengthen it or to begin it. And I have to admit, I fall into the go big or go home fallacy. You know, if I'm not going to light candles and da-da-da, it doesn't seem, but it is. Taking a moment to stop. Instead of doing something, to just stand there. It's probably one of the most powerful things that we can do to recharge and to keep in touch with the holy. We are going to do a meditation now, and it's going to take probably 5 to 10 minutes. And if you can stand that long comfortably and safely, stand. If you can't, sit. We don't want to fall here. Okay, that's pretty much all of us. Well, if you can close your eyes, that's great. If you need them open to keep your balance, try to keep your visual field as small as possible so that you're not getting other stimuli, okay? A lot of you have probably done this before, the tree meditation.
Do I have to stand in tree pose?
No. But if you can, we would be thrilled. 10 minutes.
Somebody'd have to pick me up off the floor.
Well, that could be our supporting one another.
You need roots as a tree.
That's right. And we're going to start with sending our energy downward and growing our roots. But when you get there, I want you to take a look at them. I got into a really unhealthy place in my life. And I was doing a tree meditation at a yoga studio. And my marriage was not going well at the time. And I realized that my roots were bathed in this toxic sludge coming from my husband's roots. And so what I did is just up and transplant myself into a healthier place. So pay attention to your roots, to your branches. See where needs more energy, what's beautiful that you hadn't noticed before. We're not just gonna, I hope that we do more than just the very simple. The meditation can be very basic, but it can also be very deep. And it's the consciousness you bring to it that makes a difference. Okay, are you ready? Stand or sit straight. Have your toes, your knees, your hip bones, your nose all pointing in the same direction. And also have them evenly spaced. Don't have a hip cocked or a foot forward too far, unless you need it for balance. Just, we're usually not used to standing up straight, so do this. And we'll begin with 3 communal breaths as we breathe in deeply and out. And in and out. And in and out. Now I want you to be aware of the energy within your body. Just take a look at it. Is it clear and bright? Is it muddy looking? Are there places where it seems stuck? Pay attention to that, because you can come back at another time and work on that. Get the muddy colors clear, get the stuck places unstuck. But for right now, feel that energy and direct it down your legs, your feet, into roots that go through the floor, down into the earth, down and down and down, so deep, so very deep, that you are rooted to the planet itself. You feel the fire at the center of the earth. And that powerful energy of change flows back up your roots, all the way up to your feet, up your legs, your hips, through your body. And as it comes to the crown of your head, it flows outward into branches like a willow tree surrounding you. Breathe the energy up through your body and back down so that you're on a constant loop. It comes up from the earth, through you, out through your branches, and back to the earth. And anything you need to get rid of, you can send up that way. It'll come out of your body, go back into the earth where it can be cleansed. Let it go. Let the energy coming up be red for your root chakra. Feel it coming up the base of your tailbone, your root, where so many things, so much energy and pain gets stuck. And then let it go. I want you to envision the center of yourself. And it may be a lot lower than you expect. Think of how long your legs are, and how long your spine and the bones of your neck, all the way up into your neck were when you were 20. And figure out what's the halfway point. And it's probably your sacroiliac joints, which are what hinges the top of our body to the bottom. It is what brings our weight into the pelvic girdle that supports our whole torso, neck, and head. Breathe into that part. Think of it as a clear orange, because there's a lot of work that gets done there. All of your reserve energy rests there for you to use it. Recharge it now. And come up with yellow for your solar plexus. We all tend to focus on the upper chakras, the heart, the throat for communication, but we have to get the energy flowing from the base and the lower chakras first. So bring it up into your heart, which is a green energy, and let that flow and loop through you. Feel your hearts open even further than they already were. And now let it focus on your throat. A sky blue for communication. This is one we're all pretty good at, isn't it? And then the energy becomes indigo at your third eye. It's harder to bring it up that high, isn't it, and concentrate on it. But they're up from your roots, up your body, and all the way up to where your third eye would be. And finally, it lightens to violet, at the crown of your head, at your connection to the holy. Now slowly reverse the flow. The energy from your branches slowly comes back up all the way to your crown. And down your body, down your legs, down through your roots. And now your roots start to come free from your feet, but they're always going to be there for you to reconnect with. Now, move your feet, take a step, or just move your feet a little bit so that you know you're no longer connected. And take a moment to come back to this place, this time, this beloved community. For our giving reading, it'll be number 674 by Brandock L. Lovely from Singing the Living Tradition. Let there be an offering to sustain this place, which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and of hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. If you wish to make an offering, you may bring it to the table or donate through our website. And if you're going to pledge, please, please, please let Jim know. Our next hymn is going to be We Celebrate the Gift of Life. That is going to be followed by a really beautiful rendition of We Are.
Watching time
For each child that's born, morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're keepers of faith and seekers of truth. We're keepers of peace and the builders of nations. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreams. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
I invite you to stand in body or spirit for the benediction and extinguishing the chalice. When the world goes mad, be wildly kind to everyone, everyone, everyone. You can't control much, but you control how you treat others. In these breaking news, heartbreaking times when nothing feels certain, let your raw kindness be a certainty. Allow your compassion to become a North Star stamped up in the sky for others to follow back home. Please join me in saying the words to extinguish our challenge. The words are above or in your program. We extinguish this chain,
but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are
together again. Thank you, guys. Lovely morning service this morning.
Merry meet and merry part.
So, yeah, when I come on, it's usually because we got some. Yes, and my dogs know their house, they know my property.